Being an artist, I've spent my life looking for things to create from what's around me. As a child, I remember the leaves from the walnut tree outside the window casting shadows of strange dancing creatures on my bedroom wall. The walnuts from that tree became tortoises and boats until the 1987 storm put an end to all that. Although the wood was used for years to come to make furniture by my dad, who would, after all the farm chores, make things in the workshop at the top of the oast house. My friend Mahanuel always said the work was on the floor, and so it was, laden with spirals of wood shavings. My parents were very much of the make, do and mend campaign. Nothing was wasted. Clothes were always patched up or darned. Even when a jumper reached the end of its life, it was unpicked and the wool rolled back up into crinkly balls, ready to be reknitted. One of my first creative memories was at nursery school when we made a pipe from a hollowed out rose hip and a match. I can't imagine making a pipe at preschool now. Rather a painted pasta necklace, and all the time I'd be thinking, that's a waste of good macaroni. Although if you are going to have an accessory, a pipe would be a good one. I'm picturing Sherlock Holmes or Mushahulo. I'm not sure either of those characters would look right in a pasta necklace. I grew up in a very old house, a medieval hall house, and I was told itself made from recycled ship's timbers. However, I'm not sure I totally believe that, because if I was a medieval carpenter, the last thing I would be using would be old oak. I mean, it's rock hard. I bent a nail every time I tried to put a picture up. There was something, though. Late at night from my bedroom I could hear the sound of the death watch beetle clicking somewhere deep within the house timbers. I have to admit the house was a bit creepy sometimes. My dad said that him and his brother used to hear footsteps in the passage to the sitting room, and when they opened the door, no one was there. All the time I lived there I didn't hear any ghostly footsteps, but could quite easily scare myself with my own imagination. My dad made all the door latches for the house. These contraptions had a leather string on one side that when pulled would lift the latch, and I never understood why these doors confused visitors so much, as it was all I'd ever known. As my friends knocked frantically to escape the dark and haunted hallway. My favourite hobby was digging in a Victorian rubbish dump on the farm. I'd find beautiful old bottles, aqua blue, with lovely irregularities and bubbles in the glass, or the most exciting finds of dark blue or green hexagonal poison bottles. They always came out lovely when you washed them out with some grit in the cowshed. A byproduct of digging was finding clay, and I used it to make faces or pots or Toby jugs and baked them in the fire. I actually had an open fire in my bedroom, but I mainly fired my creations downstairs, as there was always a fire going with a kettle on the hob of the Rayburn. As a child, it never occurred to me that I could ask for toys. Birthday presents were always practical: paints, a penknife, a sewing kit. Seeing other children at school with toys made me think that I might quite like one, and I'd try to make it myself. One particular moment I remember well is trying to make a play people horse while everyone else was woodcutting. I used a billy, which is short for a bill-hooked machete, and I ended up chopping myself instead of the piece of wood I had chosen to make the horse from. One of the woodcutters tore a strip of the lining of his coat and tied it round my bleeding thumb. I never finished that horse. Another time, when slime was the in thing, I waded into the pond and collected some bright green weed from the surface, and I kept that in a jam jar. It was the closest thing to slime I could find, but the play value wasn't that great. Vegetables were mostly from the garden: potatoes, carrots, cauliflowers, radishes, cabbages, lettuces, sometimes coming with additional protein, as my dad would say, as you got the occasional cooked caterpillar. There was always a tub of frozen gooseberries in the freezer. In fact, there may still be some in my freezer right now. I must get round to making that gooseberry fool. When my grandmother, who lived in the other half of the house, died, we were clearing out the cupboards and my dad found an old tin of tongue. I have no idea how old that tin of tongue was, but certainly I didn't want to go anywhere near it. Anyway, to my horror, my dad minced it up and put it in the shepherd's pie the next day. Yeah, I didn't partake in the shepherd's pie that day. I can still picture that tongue though, all curled up and glistening in the tin. I know I'm not keen on waste, but one has to draw the line somewhere.